Hey everyone, I hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter in whichever format you're choosing to play it as. And today we're going to be jumping in head first into what has become the Monster Hunter 6 rumor mill regarding leaks and rumors. And I think today we have not just a relatively interesting one, but one that I think is going to make a lot of people excited. And I certainly want to lay the foundation here to explain to everyone not just where these rumors are coming from, where these leaks are coming from, but also why I think they are more credible than many of the stuff you've probably seen kind of being tossed around there. That's mainly because when it comes to the next mainline Monster Hunter game, Monster Hunter 6, Monster Hunter World 2, Monster Hunter Paradise, Monster Hunter Rise 2, whatever they end up calling it, naming conventions aside, we don't necessarily know what consoles it's coming to. We are assuming that it's coming, of course, to current gen PlayStation, Xbox, and PC consoles. That's kind of a given. We expect that. But we haven't necessarily heard much it coming to the Nintendo Switch, or at the very least, the next mainline Nintendo console. So today, we're going to be talking about why we actually think, rumors-wise, it might actually be. So first and foremost, I want to provide a huge shout out to Universal Nintendo. This is a Brazilian outlet led by one of the lead chief editors, Necro Leap. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Huge shout out to them for being the first ones to kind of get this information out there. If you have never heard of them, they're basically some of the outlets that I've been talking about. For example, the most recent Nintendo Direct, they got a lot of the information right. They were talking about the Nintendo Direct happening long before any one of the alleged other quote-unquote leakers actually begun to talk about it and quote-unquote, confirm with their sources and stuff like that. So they've been, at the very least, as of recently, more accurate about some of the information that they're talking about. Their chief editor, like I mentioned before, Necro Leap, I believe is the way that his name is actually pronounced, was recently posting as a member of the FamiBoards.com website. If you've heard of FamiBoards, I'm sure I don't have to explain that to you, but this is a relatively old forum where people talk Nintendo and stuff. There's a specific thread there talking about Nintendo hardware and technology and speculations and stuff like that. And he recently just posted that because people were having a discussion regarding Monster Hunter 6 not coming to the Switch successor, or Switch 2 if you will, since the game will be pushing the RE engine to the absolute limit, just like the Monster Hunter World pushed the NT frame rates or frame rate to its limits. I would actually argue that MT frame rate wasn't necessarily pushed to its limits with Worlds and Iceborne's release, since it was just poorly optimized. One of the reasons why we got to see so much performance issues on the PlayStation 4, and they were some of them were fixed on the PlayStation 4 Pro, was because the game was not properly rendering a lot of things going on in it. They fixed a lot of things in Iceborne, but base World had a lot of performance issues because it was just very heavy to be able to run for whatever reason. Any PC player of World will be able to tell you that, since they did optimize it with mods and things of that nature. So Necro Leap decided to post, again, this is the Universal Nintendo owner or head chief editor, and he basically said that the next mainline Monster Hunter game will be releasing on Switch next gen. Yes, so basically confirming, according to him, or basically based off of what he's heard, that the next mainline Monster Hunter game will be making its way to presumably what we expect it to be, the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, the reason why this is very interesting is because also Universal Nintendo just recently spoke about the fact that Far Cry 7, a game that's, as of right now, currently unofficially revealed. Ubisoft hasn't necessarily made it an official reveal by any means, but there has been plenty of rumors and leaks regarding Far Cry 7 already being worked on by Ubisoft developers. They are actually claiming that this game will also be a launch day game on the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. There's also been plenty of rumors as of recently regarding their Final Fantasy 7 remake as well, potentially becoming a launch title on the Nintendo Switch 2, although there's some cross rumors as well claiming that it's not actually going to happen. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of discussion happening regarding the next Nintendo mainline console being extremely powerful, to the point that it's probably going to surprise a lot of people, and it's gonna get a lot of support right out of the gate, as developers and publishers don't want to pull an EA, where it took them forever to be able to get their games onto the current Nintendo Switch, and they basically don't want to miss out on those sales. expectedly, of course, Monster Hunter 6, which we expected to launch some point next year in 2024. Like I said at the top of the video, we expect it to launch on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, maybe Xbox Series S if Microsoft continues to kind of force developers to put the game on both consoles. And of course, we're expected to launch on PC as well, day and date, presumably. But now we are also being, told at the very least that it might be making its way onto the Nintendo Switch too. And this is very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense for many reasons because, of course, as we've covered in the past, Monster Hunter is extremely massive in Japan and in Asia. The Xbox, currently, it's not. PC gaming, while it's gaining a lot of ground, and just like mobile gaming, it's just continuing to grow almost exponentially, if you will. It still hasn't necessarily reached console status out in Asia, specifically in Japan. The only other console that players will be able to get their hands on Monster Hunter 6, if it were to be as a massive, potent, visually experience, would just have to be a PlayStation 5. And if you have been paying attention to the sales of the PlayStation 5, specifically in Asia and in Japan, that console is struggling to sell. As many times as Sony comes out and states that they are doing record sales or whatever, and when it comes to Asia and in Japan, PlayStation 5 is not doing all that well. It's still being outsold by the Nintendo Switch almost 2-to-1, all in Asia and specifically in Japan and even in China. So PlayStation 5 is still not doing necessarily all that well. And this is past the point of the fact that PlayStation 5 was struggling because they couldn't necessarily meet the demand. We're way past that point now. There's plenty of PlayStation 5s available in store shelves, and people are not necessarily flocking to get it because there's just not that many exclusives, at the very least, right now. Of course, that's going to change with time, but, people want to have a decent catalog of games to be able to delve into, and that's still 2 years into the launch of the PlayStation 5, still not a thing. So Capcom, you would imagine, sees that and says, we want to make this game available in every platform as possible, and that includes the Nintendo Switch 2. That is probably because the fact that, if you haven't been paying attention to the Nintendo Switch rumor mills, this thing is going to support DLSS and a high version of DLSS, probably 3.5 or at the very least 3.0, which means that it doesn't necessarily have to be the most visually striking game running natively, but it can be art-pressed and look extremely well. There's been plenty of rumors coming out of Gamescom that the Nintendo Switch 2 could potentially match the power of a PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 4 Pro or somewhere in between. Some have suggested PlayStation 5, but that's a little bit of a stretch realistically speaking. So even if it comes close to something of a PlayStation 4 Pro, that is a big win, again, with the technology that NVIDIA has over AMD when it comes to image reconstruction and things like that. So, this is pretty much lining up with what we would have expected. It would have been probably a massive surprise to many that Monster Hunter 6 would probably be a launch day game on the Nintendo Switch 2. But then you also have to consider, and this is something that I alluded to in a video that I made probably about a month ago or 2 months ago by now, where it all really depends on when the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out and when Monster Hunter 6 is coming out. Based on all the suggestions, again, this is based off of Capcom's very own internal fiscal reports, they are expecting a major game release that has been yet to be revealed to be launching before April of 2024. So we are expecting it to be, of course, Monster Hunter 6, but that could, of course, potentially change. Those plans could be pushed back. So let's say this game does launch in the summer or early fall, if you will. Well, the Nintendo Switch 2 wouldn't be coming out until most likely around this time next year. This time in September, October, November, we're expecting also a potential PlayStation 5 Pro. There's a lot of rumors that maybe Xbox might finally decide to release an Xbox Series X, revisioned or whatever, based on those rumors that we have seen. So there's a lot of things that are going to be happening next year when it comes to like console publishers and makers wanting to get money out of you by them releasing new versions of their platforms, whether it is a revised Xbox Series X or S, whether it is a PlayStation 5 Pro, which presumably, of course, has to be more powerful, and then, of course, Nintendo with their next version of the Nintendo Switch. All of these console makers are going to be pushing for your money, and the more games that they can have available for launch, the better for them. And publishers, like I said before, they don't want to be left behind, hoping and wishing that they could have gotten in early, because as they saw with the Nintendo Switch 2, it was a juggernaut right out of the gate, and plenty of publishers missed out on those sales early on, where they didn't basically have to compete with many people or many other publishers, and they could have gotten a lot of money, and they just missed out. So we expect the Switch 2 to be really interesting when it comes to what it can do technology-wise. But if Capcom is paying attention, and I'm sure they are, they're probably going to be lining up this game to be a big hit for them in Japan right out of the gate with whatever Nintendo has in store as well. But that's about all the information. Once again, first and foremost, huge shout out to Universal Nintendo. Link in the description below to their page and their Twitter account. And of course, Necroleap as well. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right. The chief editor for Universal Nintendo, which again, I think these are trusted sources based off of the recent track record. I know a lot of other people are just going to say this is just a lot of BS or whatever. That's fair. That's why you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. If you're brand new to my channel, though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.